Kyle Richards found herself confronting a moment she had never expected, a moment that shook even the most polished facade of Beverly Hills perfection. Cameras weren't rolling. Glam squads weren't present. There was no diamond-holding intro, no producer whispering directions. This was real life. Raw, unfiltered, and deeply, painfully human. Kyle had always been someone who could keep going. A woman who could manage motherhood, fame, friendships, feuds, and filming schedules with the composure of a seasoned pro. But when it came to her marriage to Mauricio Umansky, the man she married in 1996, the man she built a family and a future with, she found herself trapped in a moment where fear and love collided in ways she never imagined. The day everything shifted. It started quietly. Most life-changing days do. Kyle remembered it clearly. The early morning sunlight creeping into the kitchen, the gentle hum of her phone, the rhythmic tapping of Mauricio answering work emails. Completely normal, completely routine. But beneath the ordinary, something felt off. Mauricio had been keeping an exhausting schedule: real estate deals, media appearances, duty hits rehearsals, charity events. He was pushing himself harder than usual. And Kyle, who had spent years reading his moods, sensed a heaviness in him that morning. Then came the moment she would never forget. Mauricio sat down at the table, reached for his coffee, and suddenly paused. The color drained from his face. His breathing grew shallow. His hand trembled ever so slightly, the kind of tremble only a partner of nearly 3 decades would notice instantly. "Kyle, I'm not feeling right," he whispered. She would later describe that moment as a punch to the chest, as if all the years of laughter, tears, arguments, reconciliations, and promises were suspended in the air, waiting to collapse. The next minutes were a blur. Phone calls, tension, fear disguised as calm. And soon Mauricio was being transported to the hospital for immediate evaluation. The world-famous realtor, the confident negotiator, the man always in control, now vulnerable in a way that terrified Kyle. The waiting room moment that broke her. Inside the hospital, Kyle's reality shifted. The dimly lit hallways, the muted sounds of medical staff, the sensation of sitting still while her entire world spun. Kyle repeatedly replayed their last normal conversation in her mind. They had been talking about weekend plans, dog training, and whether they should finally take that family trip they'd been postponing for years. Now, all she could think was, what if we never get that weekend? What if we never get that trip? There was no camera to capture her fear, no glam team to hide it, no castmate to interrupt it. Just Kyle, her anxiety, and the weight of the unknown. She later admitted something that stunned fans. "I didn't know if he was going to be okay, and I didn't know if everything we hadn't said yet would remain unsaid." Mauricio's request that she worried her. When Kyle was finally allowed into the room, Mauricio was awake but clearly drained, vulnerable, soft-spoken. The first thing he asked wasn't about himself, wasn't about the business, wasn't even about his own health. He asked for their daughters. "Kyle, I need to see them," he whispered. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It wasn't even a plea. It was a father needing to connect with the people he loved most, in case life had just issued him a warning he couldn't ignore. Kyle froze. Their daughters were scattered everywhere, filming, working, traveling. They were building the independent lives she and Mauricio had always encouraged. Pulling them all together on short notice felt impossible. But his eyes made it clear he needed them. Not for goodbye, not for fear, but because moments like these have a way of reminding us that love is bigger than schedules, responsibilities, and distance. Kyle made the calls, and what followed was one of the most emotional reunions of their family's life. The daughters arrive. Mauricio's face softened when Farah walked in. Her strength, her calm, her steady presence. Then Alexia appeared, the heart of the family, the one who always felt deeply and loved fiercely. Next came Safia, whose maturity and warmth filled the room instantly. And finally, Portia, the baby of the family, still growing into her voice, still finding her place, yet capable of bringing light to any darkness. Kyle described the moment as both the hardest and most beautiful scene she had ever lived. Mauricio wasn't dramatic. He wasn't tearful. He wasn't defeated. He simply spoke from a place of honesty and clarity. The conversation that haunted Kyle. Mauricio addressed each daughter with quiet determination. To Farah, he spoke about responsibility and leadership. To Alexia, about empathy and courage. To Safia, about resilience. To Portia, about joy and embracing life fully. He wasn't giving final messages. Kyle would never describe it that way. But he was giving meaningful ones. Honest ones. Ones rooted in a father's deepest hopes. Kyle stood beside him, listening, absorbing every word. She later confessed, "I knew he felt scared. Not hopeless, just scared. And hearing him talk to the girls that way, it hit me that life can change so fast. We take so much for granted." But then came the moment that would stay with her forever. Mauricio turned to her, his partner, his confidant, his greatest supporter through fame, success, and turmoil. "Kyle, make sure they always know how much I love them, even when I'm not there to say it." It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a farewell. It was a promise he needed her to protect. And Kyle, holding back tears, nodded. That promise became her anchor through the long hours that followed. The night that changed everything. Kyle spent the night in the waiting area, unable to sleep, unwilling to leave. She replayed their entire marriage. Their early days when money was tight and dreams were big. The years when their love felt unstoppable. The seasons when they were so busy building a life that they forgot to slow down and live it together. The recent years full of confusion, distance, public speculation, and emotional strain. The years when the world questioned whether their marriage was crumbling. She realized something important. Even when things are hard, even when you're unsure, even when you're mad or confused, you don't ever want to lose the person you built your life with. That night, she understood the truth that fans rarely see beneath the Beverly Hills glitter. Even the strongest marriages face storms. Even the most glamorous couples have moments of doubt. And even the most independent woman can feel heartbreak when the person she loves is hurting. The morning after. When morning arrived, the news was cautiously positive. Mauricio would recover. His condition required care and rest, but he wasn't in immediate danger. The relief Kyle felt was indescribable, like she had been holding her breath for hours and finally inhaled again. She held his hand gently, and he looked at her with gratitude that said more than words ever could. And in that silent exchange, something shifted between them. Not a reconciliation, not a magic fix, not a sweeping romantic reunion, but a recognition. Life is precious. Family is everything. And love, even imperfect love, is worth fighting for. The legacy of that moment. Later, Kyle would share pieces of this story, careful, respectful, emotional, with her castmates, her fans, and the world. She wanted people to understand something real. Behind every diamond, behind every storyline, behind every rumor, there are families. There are memories. There are fears. There is love. Mauricio's help scare didn't erase their issues. It didn't magically fix years of complicated feelings, but it reminded them of what matters most. The life they built, the daughters they raised, and the bond that will always exist between them, even if its shape changes over time. And for Kyle, that moment became a turning point, a reminder to slow down, to choose presence over perfection, to cherish the people she loves, even when life gets complicated. Because in the quietest moments, the ones without cameras, diamonds, or designer gowns, love is what remains.